There have been points too where she'll be like, you were harder on me than everybody else. I'm like, well, I mean,
I know what to expect from you.
I know what, yeah, exactly. I know what to expect at that point. We're both hard on each other. They're like bird call shoots all the time. It's kind of, we'll be in the corner being like, no, we need to do this. And then we come back, we're like, here's the plan, everybody. But everyone's just like, Mom and Dad just fought over where that light should sit.
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger
and Cameron Garrity.
And today we have Calvin Lester and Kelsey Brady. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Welcome to the show. For anybody who does not know, Calvin and Kelsey are some of the founding members of Bird Call Radio, the entertainment media moguls that have created things like Bird Call the musical. There's a Bird Call podcast. They've got web series. They have TikToks, and they also do some really great in-person events at schools and at hospitals. And included in all of that, they also are theme park puppeteers, and we're so glad to have them on the show. Calvin and Kelsey, welcome to Puppeteers.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sure thing. Yeah. One thing we like to start off with is, what are you guys working on right now?
You want to go?
No, I want you to go.
Oh, okay. Well, so obviously because of quarantine and everything, we kind of had to stop producing anything. Now that things are kind of getting a little back to normal, we can get back into that. So we're going to start doing actual full episodes on YouTube for Bird Call. So I've talked to a lot of the cast, and they're ready to do something after sitting around for
awesome.
4 months.
Yeah.
So that's been nice.
What does full episodes look like?
It'll actually be like a full storyline, A/B story.
Okay.
10 minutes?
20.
20?
20, like a 20-minute episode.
That's why you're talking.
Yeah. So we're doing full 20-minute episodes coming up, and it's been things that we had in the back burner the whole time. So now it's kind of, maybe this is the time to start kind of looking into pre-production and making that all work.
Yeah. No, because if people aren't familiar with, I love the stuff that you guys do on YouTube already. You have a lot of amazing short skits that you do with your puppets and stuff. So that would be the change. Rather than being like skits, it'd be a full fleshed out storyline with multiple stories with all the different characters and stuff like a TV show. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the musical was kind of based on a lot of episodes you had already in mind, and it was just kind of a way to get it out there, because we haven't always had the means or the talent pool to pull from, but now that the Bird Call family has kind of grown and developed, and we've got more equipment and more followers and stuff, now it kind of feels like the right time to take those storylines and actually flesh them out instead of just into the 2-hour musical. We can actually expand on that.
Yeah.
And do you mind just for anyone who's maybe not familiar or just hearing about this for the first time, just kind of describe the Bird Call universe, what these characters are, and how they're all related and such?
Yeah, it all takes place in Connecticut, in this fictional town called Peach Pit, Connecticut. And there's a whole town history we came up with for the show Bible, so we knew what that was. But the idea is that these birds, and you kind of, we don't branch out too much on the animal side of it. Oh my God. On the animal side of, all animals have these backstories, but birds specifically are the secret society that pretty much have been segregated from the humans. And they all, my character Luckle actually is probably more interested in the human race and what they have to offer. And it kind of helps connect with one of our other lead characters, Wally, the human, who is interested in what the birds are doing. So they kind of cross paths to where they can learn about each other's lives. So with Luckle, though, he is working at WING, and he's a commercial guy. Radio station. And he definitely wants to get his own show. And he works with Frances, his aunt, who's the programming director. They have a boss who is a chicken. And Fallow is kind of his, I I wouldn't say enemy, but definitely his
Nemesis.
Yeah. He's very jealous of Luckle because he sees his potential and sees him as a way of pushing him out eventually. So, and that kind of is the front runner of the storylines till we progress out into beyond the radio station.
So basically, like a group of dynamic characters, like it's mostly about them and the flock working at the station and
That's
what
so
they
cool.
do there.
Did the musical come first? Was that the first thing?
No, it's funny. The musical, actually, Kelsey is kind of hitting on this too. The musical was the first 5 episodes that I'd written for the show. I had initially pitched it to NBC in 2008. And that's when I was getting to go back and forth to New York when they were doing like the Muppet workshops and stuff.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was able to connect me with somebody with NBC because they were looking, and then they liked it and they were like, let's go further with this. And then the writer's strike happened, and then we said, we'll just take our rights back. That'd be great. And so they were very nice, but they were like, don't give up on it. We think it's a good potential. So I obviously didn't do that. I didn't just give up. I kept going. So then the musical became kind of a way to get those first 5 episodes pushed out there.
Yeah.
And they didn't have songs in them. So I ended up writing all the songs for the show to kind of move the story along a little quicker, because obviously each episode is 22 minutes. You can only do so much. You also can't cut away on stage. You can't do close-ups and stuff like that. So
We tried really hard.
Yeah.
That's right. No, that's amazing. That's so smart to do the theater version, and I think that's something I would highly recommend a lot of people. We've done that ourselves, Cameron, with things, because one thing that's nice about that is when you're doing live performances with these characters, you just get into these characters' heads in a way that at least when you're discovering these characters more, that you just can't quite do in the same way that you're in film, because you can't really break character in the same way. You don't stop in the middle of a sentence because to get another angle or to do another take when you're on stage. So it kind of again forces you into these characters' heads in a way that's difficult to otherwise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of great too, because there were people that we had cast for the show. The first time we did it was 2014, and they all kind of read for these characters and done little things here and there, but it was the first time they had to actually step into it and think, what's my A to B throughout? And even me as well, like I created these characters, but like you said, you can only go so far with filming. So, and also people just seen us we'd done like live charity events with the characters, and we had done the thing where we're hidden, but for the musical, it was kind of let's just cut our losses and stay on stage. Avenue Q did it, and Finding Nemo here in Orlando, the musical, I teach the show. So I was able to kind of find both sides of that to bring over into Bird Call. So it was
proven that audiences are willing to kind of
ignore the human.
Believe what
Yeah.
you tell them to believe.
Yeah, and I'll say, I think the first time you guys landed on my radar, I saw a video of it. Must have been either on Facebook or YouTube, of some rehearsal footage of you guys, and it was just so engaging. I mean, in that case, like you weren't even in black, but it was just a bunch of birds on a telephone wire, and to see everybody's hands working together, and it was so spellbinding. And yeah, I think the manipulation especially is something really special that you guys have been able to achieve with that. Obviously, of course, the look of the puppets and the songs and all that sort of stuff, but it really is something. Adam just watched it yesterday with his not even 1-year-old daughter, and you could just be mesmerized by watching these things move.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we appreciate that.
And something else I can tell just by watching all the stuff you've been doing over the years is nothing is on accident. This is very thought out, very planned out, to the point is even the release of the musical that you did on your YouTube channel, the way that it's a what do you call it, a webinar, a screening, right?
What do they call them now? A watch party.
Oh, a watch party. That's right. It was a watch party with all the puppets doing a watch party, and I watched it, and it's just, you did it for the intro, you did it for the intermission, and you did it at the end, and I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so complicated what they just did with that many characters, that many different people doing voices, and it was I could tell there was a lot of planning that went into that. Can you kind of talk about what it took to even create something like that?
Yeah, because what we did initially, like when quarantine started, everyone was like asking, what are the birds doing during quarantine? We're like, I don't know. Like they're up in their houses. So Kels and I and a friend of ours, right before everything was getting shut down, we went to a nature reserve out here by us and did a whole video of local social distancing, like finding yourself alone and kind of realizing, yeah. And we had some of the guys send in their vocals. Everybody doesn't have microphones and stuff like we do. So they would record it on their iPhones or, you know, in any way they could get the voice to us. And all it was is that we had a spinning effect, like Local standing in the forest looking, and he can hear his friends in the echoes, like he's going crazy. And we thought, oh, we could probably get people, because we still have all the puppets with us. Usually we would send them off and have them do it, but it just made more sense to get the vocals and do almost like a radio show edit.
Yeah.
To then puppeteer to a track. And then Kelsey and I came up with it's like a Zoom for the birds to do. Let's record each segment what was the original? It was like a video chat with the boss.
Oh yeah.
At the station, because he's like, well, how are we going to keep, you know, broadcasting our radio shows at home? And so we came up with this script. It was like 12 minutes long. But what we realized after we recorded everything and edited it, that we're going to have to puppeteer for 12 minutes straight on one camera, and it's just the two of us. And you know, she took on she took her character obviously, but it was a lot of work.
So for the musical itself, it was just like you said, we got the voices, the recording from all of our friends who did the different characters, and then we had to puppeteer to it, and then he edited it all together. And then he went in and because there were some audio issues, he went in and word for word put in all of the subtitles for all of it. But I mean, when you got the time,
yeah,
yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah.
No, that was amazing. I could tell. I was like, oh my gosh, I can see how much work that is. Because yeah, you had to do each one, and I did know ahead that you two had done the puppetry for it. And I was like, that's a lot of time. And then the editing alone. Oh my gosh, yeah, there's so much.
How many backdrops do we have to work with?
Exactly.
Like one we gave up on and just stuck him in front of the blinds of the door. We're like, just put him in front of that. It's fine. We're done.
I saw that. I thought that was so funny because there's always that one person who has no concept of what's around them, and when they do a video call, and that was brilliant. That was really funny. And you know, that brings me to another thing. Another one that I saw recently was a skit that you have on there called Grounded, which is a really funny one with was that character's name Speck?
Yes.
Speck, it looks like he's trying to get this little octopus. Super cute little storyline. And again, I watched that and I was like, God, this is not something they're just had an idea and doing it quick. Do you guys did you storyboard that?
Well, for that one, it was the 48-hour LA Puppetry Guild submission.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the final result you saw was actually a little bit cleaned up from when we submitted it. But yeah, that one was kind of fly by the seat of our pants. I think
I walked in, I was like, do we want to do this? Because everybody kept messaging me saying, are you going to submit anything? And I was like, no, it's, you know, we already did that long project of the birds on the Zoom call. It was called their at-home homing pigeon app. So we're like, they're doing their own thing. And I walked in and asked her, she was sitting on the couch, I was like, do you want to do this? She's like, yeah, sure, why not?
And the way he works is very methodical and plan. And the way I work is very much like, let's just do it. It'll be fine. Well, it's just...
Sounds like me and Adam.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's like, Kelsey, this is not a TikTok.
I know. But no, so it's always a little bit of both. And for that one in particular, I was like, no, we got to get this done. We don't have time. I've got a camera. Let's just get out there. We'll get as many shots as we can from as many angles as we can. We already kind of knew the story.
Got it.
Granted, it was maybe a little bit more frustrating for the one who had to edit it, which was not me. But I was happy.
It turned
with
out
how
really
it
fun.
turned out.
I thought it was cute because they gave us the prompts for each, like it had to be cardboard.
You had to use cardboard. The theme was hope, and the action you had to incorporate was jumping.
So we were like, let's really just work around that. And I mean, it worked for what we were doing. And it was just the two of us. So, and Kels doesn't perform spec.
I got to do the voice.
She has to do the voice.
Oh, really?
We couldn't get in touch with Tyler, who does it now, in time. And he was like, oh no,
he
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
say much.
Yeah.
So he just...
He grunts, so that's fine. So yeah, that one was fun to do. And we had this gimbal where you could go out and kind of get these POV shots of him jumping.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I'm really
So-
working on my videography.
That's right. I could tell. I saw that you were credited with that.
yeah.
No, it's so great. I saw again in researching and knowing we were going to talk to you. You say in the sort of the history of the show that this started as a series of sketches back from 2002, which is just like so cool to me, especially as someone who like was also doodling and sketching and writing notes down and stuff for his own puppet shows all the way back then. But to decide to like stick to and commit to that, what was it about those drawings, those characters that made you want to build the whole world around it versus because I could see a lot of artists just saying like, I was stupid back then, that was 10 20 years ago. I know so much more now. But like, what made you be like, no, this is good, we're gonna commit to this?
I had done, 2002, I was 15 at the time. Me and my brother had come up with, I had drawn all these birds, we were being fun, because like you said, just sit around and doodle and write things all the time. And I already come up with like a cartoon show I wanted to do, and I was big on animation, but it was like, but I should probably go to school for the psychology thing that I want to do, because that'll make me money, right? But lucrative puppetry is even more. That's going to pay the bills, right? Like that was like always the afterthought.
Parents love to hear that too.
Yes, yeah, Calvin. That sounds like a great idea. What are you doing? So
You had a couple different worlds.
yeah, so I had
Going.
different things that I was kind of just working on, but the goal initially was to kind of come up with something and see what sticks to the wall kind of thing. And so then, Bird Call was created, and my brother named a bunch of them. He was so young at the time, so some of the names I was like, these don't make sense. And now that they're names that we just use commonly, it's really funny to look
It's
back
weird
and see.
to not see them as that
Exactly. So yeah, I came up with it 2002, then put it away and never looked at it again. And then I went to audition for Muppets in 2004, 2005. And I was at the airport, and I had one of the journals that had the drawings in it. I was like, oh, I forgot about these. And it was really neat. But at the time, I just thought it was going to be like a cartoon. And then getting to go to the audition and then do the workshops and meet Kevin Clash, and then getting to work with them in some capacities, it was really neat. And they were the ones that was like, you should make this a puppet thing. You should really do that. And I thought, but that's like the Muppets thing. Like and they're like, no, like it's really good to do your own thing, and that's always their suggestion for a lot of things. And I'm sure you both have heard that, where it's everybody wants to be in the Muppets, sure, but if you come up with your own thing and have that original idea, it could propel you into the opportunities. So I kind of left it at that, and then ended up working at Disney as a puppeteer, where I ended up meeting all these puppeteers who were like, we'd love to do something else. And I was like, oh, actually I have this notebook full of ideas that, and it went from there. And there's people, so much untapped talent down here in Orlando.
Just a lot of really talented people just kind of itching for an opportunity to be creative outside of doing the same same show 10 times a day. Let's help develop these characters. Let's help make this show.
Yeah, people jumped on.
A good outlet.
But I think what made me stick with it was once the characters were built, we did a few events, and people started coming up to us going, do you have like plushes of these characters? Or do you have like a pic, like all these little merchandise things? And I'm like, no, like I was lucky I have this right now,
The characters are so cute. They look like they should already be established as something, even if they haven't heard them before. Even this is
right
in front of you, like, oh, this is the first time I'm seeing them. Is this something? Is this what is this?
It definitely looks
Should
like
I know what this is?
It definitely looks like a thing because, you know, especially, and one thing that helps is, of course, they are beautiful puppets, but also even sometimes you see people who have a bunch of beautiful puppets, but they don't feel like they work together that well. I mean, there's a very clear aesthetic that these all come from the same world, and again, they're beautiful.
Oh yeah, thank you. I mean, and our builders are Scott Hune and Chris Falkenberry,
Like performers in
the show who knew what the show was and just kind of went with it and was like, we're gonna take your drawings and how can I do this?
Can I do a thing?
We paid them obviously, but they did such great work, and everybody
we're so lucky. We're so lucky for the people that we just come in contact with day to day, like in the theme parks. Like people don't really think that, oh, you work in a theme park and I'm sure you're good at what you do. But no, like there's some really amazing talent that is just waiting to have an opportunity to be seen.
Yeah, and birds are hard to, I mean, it's hard to make a nice bird too, especially because really, you know, covering the beaks with the fleece, like that's those birds are beautiful. And another person who I know who makes beautiful birds is James Voital Jr., who he's had on as a guest. He's really great at birds too. But
I talked to James years ago because he was still doing Sesame, and he had built puppets that actually came down to some of the shows we were doing here. And I got in contact with him, and we did a thing where if the pitch was going to go through and be successful, that we were like, hey, maybe James could build the puppets. And he's like, absolutely. And then obviously that didn't work out.
We don't have the James budget yet.
Yeah. And he understood.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, actually, now that we got really deep into the bird call stuff, I want to find out more about like what brought you to puppetry, because you mentioned that it was started off as like a cartooning stuff, but then at the Sesame Workshop they said this should be a puppet show. I'm sure something else brought you to Sesame Workshop about puppetry before that. So how did you guys find puppetry?
It's strange. It's strange for me. I think about this all the time. Like, how did I get here? And anytime I would teach a rehearsal at Disney or teach a puppet workshop, I always like to remind them, like, I don't know how I got into this. Like, I don't know. It just, you fall in love with it, obviously, because you're bringing a character to life. You're that aspect of it. And obviously the big inspiration is what Jim Henson's legacy was and that he left. And I loved the Muppets growing up. I didn't think it was like a job. I didn't think, oh, that's a job you can do. Like that's not realistic, right? And I grew up in West Virginia in the coal fields. Like that's where we grew up. And to think that you could go and do that for a living was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I just remember falling in love with that art form, but never thinking I should really pursue it. And the auditions for Muppets did come along, and I knew I could do the voices because I talked so much about animation, voice acting, writing. My mom was a big push for that, where she's like, well, Muppets do this as well. It's just not cartoons, it's a form of that, but it's like obviously completely different. So, I looked into it more and read up about it and just kind of did a lot of self-teaching of you'd sit in front of a mirror with a puppet and just figure out what you're doing. But you'd also like watch what they did and how, just remarkable the sitting and listening, because there's so many times you'd see puppets and they're just all over the place. And I think any artist could look at something like that and know what's good and what's not, because there's plenty of people I've met who are like, I don't know how to make a puppet move, but they know when it looks bad. And you're like, yes, you get it. So I think that's kind of what helped push me toward that more and more, is to see, like, I think it was putting my toe in the water to be like, is this puppetry the cool thing to do? Okay, I'll stick with it. And I got very lucky with those workshops and stuff. And not just learning about the puppet side of it, but it was more like the character side of it and going, what makes it so important that this, puppet is alive and how it's alive and what it's thinking. And I thought that was just really neat, because you as an actor, you can do that face value done, but having to like have this challenge of learning how to make it look I think that's what kept me going with it, to be like, well, what else can I do? And we had so many opportunities with Disney of different forms of puppetry to go, today you're going to do this, and tomorrow you're going to do something completely different that's like this large puppet. So just learning subtleties was a big thing too. So I think it was for me, like, when am I going to stop doing this? Like, am I just going to kind of go, okay, that was fun, and do something else? But obviously,
now I'm going to do balloon animals.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be at Chili's on Thursdays. Making balloon animals.
So, so am I wrong? It does kind of sound like that. You know, wherever you read or saw that this workshop was going to be happening, that was kind of the kick in the butt then. Like, hey, you know, let me really look at this seriously. Let me apply to this thing. And then you got in, and then you realize, yeah, this is what I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, especially because the characters alone were such big parts of my childhood. You know, Big Bird especially was like my favorite. So to go, I could possibly walk in tomorrow and he, you know, even though, you know, it's a puppet, you're obviously going to see Big Bird and go, oh my God, like that's really him. And Tyler Bunch was a big help as well, who I'm still good friends with. And he was just very much like, this is a great opportunity, and really stick with it. And, you know, because he did Bear for so long. And by that point, Bear had gone off the air, I think, about that time. And he was still, you know, doing Sesame. So he's like, there's so many things to do. Tomorrow you could play a bear. Tomorrow you could play, you know, a rat. Yeah, exactly. So, and I learned to appreciate that no job within the puppetry realm is minuscule. Like everything you do is important. Everybody play, like you said, like with the feet that we use for bird call, and they're all on the lines. Like, even though there's 3 people on one character, it takes all of them to make it look good. So I thought that was just a cool thing to stick to.
Did you have a performing background at all before you discovered this work?
Yeah, I did a lot of theater back home. And again, being in West Virginia, you could only do so much. And they closed our theater department. And so I took it upon myself to restart it. And the school would just let us do it. They're like, okay, like you come up with something. And so we would come up with our own sets and find ways to make costumes and things work. And the school appreciated that. And then we got like this news coverage where they're like, local school cuts the department, but the kids still found a way to do it, you know? So that was kind of neat.
That's cool.
That's awesome. What about you, Kelsey?
My turn. No, I've always loved musical theater, singing mostly, acting. And I think kind of the same thing. I never saw puppetry as like a career choice. It just didn't click with me, but I had my own puppet. I would sit in my room and sing Avenue Q secretly because my parents didn't know that I had the CD. But no, when I came to work at Disney World on the college program, they give you a lot of opportunities to kind of collect skills and grow from just inside the entertainment department. You can kind of workshop different skills. So I took some puppetry classes and it stuck. I don't know what it is. I am kind of a collector of skills. I like learning things. I'm not always great at them. Like a jack of all trades, master of none. But then puppetry came into my life, and I was like, oh wait, I think I'm good at this. I can apply.
That can be a dangerous thing people find out too. Yeah. I think I'm good at this.
Yeah, you can apply your acting skills, your singing, voice acting into this one thing. Yeah. And it was just fascinating to be able to they trusted me a lot when I first started in puppetry, and then from there I just kind of ran with it because I just loved it so much. Yeah. And it helps because I think as a person, I'm a very anxious and anxiety ridden person. But I've noticed that kind of a lot of puppeteers sing the same song where, you know, I'm way more comfortable and outgoing with a character than I am as myself. So I found that kind of helped me as a performer too.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. One time I'm just curious because you both kind of have that musical background. What was like the musical that got you interested in theater and musicals even? As a theater fan myself, I'm always curious.
Les Miserables.
Really? Okay.
When
Wow.
the first time
That's the
I
first
ever
one?
performed, I know, like I was a dark child.
I was gonna say I
the
love
first
that
time
one
I
too,
ever-
but it took me a while to grow my palate to really be able to appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, the first time I was ever on stage doing anything other than like little church performances or kindergarten stuff. I was 7 years old and I wanted to be Gavroche. And I sang a little snippet of his Little People song. I had my ratty little hat and my French little flag on my hat, on my beret. But yeah, and so we just watched Les Mis over quarantine. I was like, I hope it's okay that I sing along. I hope this isn't too annoying. And I know every word. I'm like, if I ever forget a name or a line in a script or anything, I'll be like, it's because I have all of Les Mis in my brain. There's no room for anything else.
That's amazing. What about you, Calvin?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think I wasn't real. I didn't really grow up watching musicals, like stage musicals, and I always thought I admitted this to Kelsey. I was like, it took me a long time to really understand that whole world of musical theater and what that meant. Like you'd see Disney movies that had obviously cut to a song. Hey, we're going to sing a song now. And that to me was what constituted as, well, this is a musical then, I guess.
So you were in.
Yeah.
And then then I did Hairspray. That was fun.
Was that before?
You know, that is
It's
so
so
funny
funny,
though.
though.
That's
No, that was after. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's so funny though. You're right though, because everyone grows up like watching Disney movies, which are they're all musicals, but then
Yeah.
people don't think that they like musicals, but they love all these Disney movies, and it's so funny. Yeah.
I grew up thinking because not only was I such a big Disney fan, watching all those animated movies, but also my grandparents were huge Andrew Lloyd Webber fans, and so they would call what they were watching when they would watch either The Phantom or Joseph or whatever on TV. They had like the recordings and stuff of the plays. They called those musicals. So I thought the only thing that made something a musical is if they sang all the way through. So even into like 6th and 7th grade, I was correcting people like, no, you can't call Hairspray a musical because they talk. So
You're right. You're completely right. Because what's the Jesus Christ Superstar?
Yeah.
I remember being like, okay, I guess this is what a musical is because nobody's talked the whole time.
Mhm.
And I remember just kind of being annoyed, like somebody say something, like, oh my God, like the whole time. And not to realize as a kid, you're going, oh, they're saying it all through the song. And some of it is talk, singing, and points. But, that always threw me for a loop. But, I mean, I've learned to obviously, I wrote a whole musical at this point. So we did talk in ours. That's the good thing. We stopped to talk.
Yeah. It's so interesting when they make those choices too, because obviously things like Hamilton, like Rent, and like that are all completely sang through. What is it called? Operetta? Then I think it's called something like that. Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Where
crazy.
it's kind of I'd have to be. I think you're right.
Yeah. I grew up. The thing that got me into it was watching Grease and Sound of Music. Those were the two that I burnt out. Mostly, actually, Sound of Music. And then I went and
I
actually.
had no idea about that.
You had no idea? Oh,
No.
yeah. Actually,
No,
funny
I
little
thought it was
story.
Grease. I totally thought it was Grease for you.
No, Grease was huge, but actually Sound of Music was actually first, and I watched both of them. And then I actually went to see it on stage, Sound of Music. And then I was just like, I was like, what are they doing? Like, what, there's Nazis in this? I realized I was only watching VHS 1. Because back then, it was so long, it was on 2 VHS tapes.
No.
But I was only ever watching the first tape. And then I'm like, why would they change Sound of Music? And they didn't. I had never watched the whole thing. It was me. Yeah.
I love
man.
That was a rude awakening for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got
Were you
dark.
the person
It got
that went-
dark.
when Titanic came out on VHS, did you put tape
oh,
one
I
in
thought
and was
they
like,
made
oh,
it.
they made it? That's the end of
Oh
it.
yeah, that's right.
Or Into the Woods. Into the Woods is so happy.
Oh, Into the
before
Woods is
That's
another good
true.
one.
intermission.
Yeah.
You just end it.
You can end it right there.
Wow, wow.
So this is great. We're hearing about both of your backgrounds individually, but how did you guys finally meet up and get to working on Bird Call and all these great projects together?
Well, so as I said before, I was on my college program, 2007. I left and came back, and I was actually a character attendant for about a year and a half before I got back into the entertainment side and started with puppets. And when I made that transition, they put me straight into this puppet workshop, kind of giving me a fast track, I guess. I was on the course to learn puppetry stuff. So in this workshop, I was taught not by Calvin, but he popped in to kind of check out the fresh meat.
Well, no. That sounds terrible. No, we were actually in the same facility because we had a Nemo rehearsal going on, and we did have the new workshop groups coming in. And we were actually on our way to do the first read-through of Bird Call the Musical, and Tyler Bunch was in town with me because he was originally going to be in the show. So I said, hey, do you want to pop in and see like what we're doing with these workshops? He said, yeah. And obviously I knew the people teaching, and she was in there, and it was kind of just like a, hey, how you doing? And because a girl coming into the puppetry department is like,
we had 3
like,
in
what's
our
going
group.
on? Yeah, there were 3 in there. We're like, what happened here? Like, how did you end up in here? Like, I'm sorry. And they ended up being, really, really good at what they did. So we met, and they all get to meet Tyler, which is kind of funny to be like, hey, welcome to Puppetry. By the way, he works with the Muppets, and he's going to watch you for a couple of minutes.
And that was terrifying.
So then after that,
I became, so it was like a month later that the first version of Bird Call on stage was happening. So because they were my brand new best friends, I came and saw the show twice because I was so excited to see it, and it was so good. But I didn't have any kind of like, oh, I'm not good enough to be a part of it. I didn't have that in my mind at all. I just was like super fan supportive because I was like, my new friends are really good at what they do, and I want to be that good. So it wasn't until like, that was summer, and then January, I started learning Disney Junior that you were teaching. And then we became better friends, and then you needed an extra person for a hospital visit. And I was like, ooh, pick me.
Because there was a lot of recasting that happened after that first show. Not that the show was bad or like anybody did something terrible, but there was a lot of, as we talked, in other forms of saying, you can work as a group, but
it needs to be collaborative.
It needs to be collaborative as a whole. And so certain people it was kind of hard to work in those areas. Not saying that they were terrible performers, it just didn't mesh well.
They were just terrible people.
She came in and it was like,
yeah.
just awful people.
And you only learn that by doing it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was the thing is Kels came in and she'd already had the puppetry skill down, the acting side down. So then it was kind of like, well, hey, would you come and read for these characters?
Well, the hospital visit was essentially my audition because I was kind of a last minute pull, like, are you available? Last minute type of thing. And then it was like, well, also this particular character may need someone else to do it. So how would you interpret this character? There might be some changes coming up. And then that ended up happening. And then it wasn't till...
And then I thought she was cute.
A while later, we started dating, but yeah, that's initially what
it's been happily ever after.
Wow,
ever
it was Disney love. Wow. It worked for Simba and Nala, so.
It's, what's really funny too, a lot of times I would like teach by the time we worked together, there was other tracks she'd learn, or I was teaching Muppets and she would learn another track. People that were new that would come in, it wasn't just like we wouldn't talk to each other, but just we made sure to keep everything
We're professional
at work. And so people would be like, "Oh, you have a girlfriend? Wait, that's her? What?"
Because
I
I don't need anybody saying that, oh, she only got the role because Calvin's teaching or whatever. I don't need that. I can show you that I'm good enough to be here on my own.
Right.
And then come have drinks with us afterwards, and we'll be a normal couple.
Yeah.
And there have been points too where she'll be like, "You were harder on me than everybody else." I'm like, well, I
have to be.
I know what to expect from you.
I know what, exactly.
Yeah.
I know what to expect at that point. We're both hard on each other. They're like bird call shoots all the time. It's kind of, we'll be in the corner being like, "No, we need to do this." And then we come back, we're like, here's the plan, everybody. But everyone's just like, Mom and Dad just fought over where that light should sit. So, yeah.
Wow. Another thing, now that we've gotten into that, I think one thing I want to really talk about that I think would be really interesting for a lot of people is being a Disney puppeteer at the theme parks. Because I think, I would just love to hear so much about your guys' journey to getting there and doing that.
I'll go first this time.
Yeah.
I was in college at BYU, and they kind of do a lot of heavy recruiting out in Utah to get to Disney World. And I auditioned out there, and they invited me back for entertainment. So I did 2007. This is how old I am. And gosh, that's 13 years ago now. But yeah, so I did my college program in entertainment. I left, but then I came back in 2013. I couldn't stay away.
Wow.
And yeah, like I said, I started off just as like your regular old performer, but from there I started kind of collecting skills, and puppetry kind of fell into it. They do a good job of helping you grow, because there's lots of shows, lots of opportunities. If you want to dance, you go to workshops and become more of a dancer. And I took the puppetry track.
Well, one thing I want to point out to people too, unless things have changed, which you can feel free to jump in, is because it's so funny because I actually did the same college program in 2007 too. Clearly, I didn't make it.
Oh no!
But because here's the thing, because I saw the thing about the table tent thing they had in the commons at the college that said work at Disney, be a Disney performer or whatever. I'm like, that's who doesn't want to do that, right?
One of us.
And then I go to this audition thing, and because I had some musical theater background and stuff, and the main thing there was being a magician at that time. But I went there, and it turned out it was just a dance audition, which was like, out of anything that I do, that was like my lowest quality, below low out of anything. I'm like, I can perform in a lot of ways for you, but you don't want to see me dance. And but it seemed like they wouldn't consider anybody unless they had a certain level of dance experience. Is that still the case, or is that?
It still goes hand in hand with that a lot, and I think it's because they do look at so much.
They give you a lot to do.
The one thing I boiled it down to, I think, is because if you're able to learn how to dance, it shows in a lot of ways that you're a very teachable person. Not to say that if you can't dance, you're not teachable, but I think it's an easy way for them to probably tell how fast people will be able to pick up anything. If you can pick up dance moves pretty quick, there's probably a lot of other things you can pick up quickly as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because it does, like Kelsey's saying, to see what else you can do throughout the company.
Because there's lots of different. If you've been to Disney World, there's all kinds of different shows and opportunities of varying skill levels.
Yeah, because I imagine, a lot of people who are puppeteers are not just puppeteers. What other types of things have you guys done besides the puppetry shows there?
I've done parades. That was fun.
Yeah, you did more than me.
Yeah.
Like marching or in a costume?
You saw my face. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, he's here." They came here to see Calvin. I did some things where you could see my face, but I will say, luckily in my opportunity here, I came in 06, and it was Kevin Clash was the one that said, you should go and audition for Disney, because he knew James and Scott Silson were the puppet guys down here, and Jeff Conover, who Jeff I had met at my Muppet audition years before that, because they were also looking for the Muppet understudies for the cruise ship show that happened. So I was kind of in contact with doing that, and so I auditioned, and they were like, hey, it looks like you've got some puppet experience here. Want to come down and learn a show? And I said, sure. Came down and thought that's all I would be doing. They didn't really sell that the other stuff that would come with it. Yeah.
Do we have plans for you?
But I've been
it's like being a homeowner,
because I learned I learned pretty much all the puppet shows on property, and then auditioned to become they call it a puppet specialist at Disney, where you teach the shows with puppetry in it. And so I got that within the next year of being here, and thought, wow, that's really cool. But I always remember telling James and Scott, like, I'll probably be here for like, a couple of years. And, I'm going on 13 now. So it's like, oh, I'm still here. I still love it. So I've got some really cool opportunities out of it. I've worked with the Disney Cruise Line, where we go up to Toronto, and they have the cast up there, and then you go on the crossover with them. And it's opened up a lot of doors for me, thankfully. And there are some people, like Adam was saying, that they'll do the puppet shows, and then they'll also go dance in a parade or something like that. But I think it does depend too. They do see the skill set, and they do see the talent that's behind it, and they really want to take care of that. And there are some people that are just here to be like, I'm here for a couple of years and I'm out. Yeah. And that's fine, because that's what they wanted to do. But the people that are really invested into it and care tend to continue to move up and find different
for people who, like you say, that people maybe plan to be there for a couple years, does it tend to be a stepping stone toward other performance styles for people?
We've seen people that have come and go and found success in different, like, either cruise ships or Broadway. Like, we also have a lot of equity opportunities here, so some will transfer over to equity, and then from there move to New York and audition around. So
we have a lot of people from Broadway that will come to learn Nemo, and it's the funniest thing in the world, because these puppets, they're made by the Michael Curry puppet company, and they're big, and so they walk into a room, and we're showing them how they work, and we posted a lot of that stuff on the Disney blogs and stuff. They'll show behind the scenes of Nemo, because that's like one of the biggest shows you can really show how it works, because you see the performer. But they all come in kind of with this, oh, I'm going to be doing a puppet, it's going to be cute. And then they don't realize how rigorous the training is going to be throughout, and how much you're going to be so exhausted by the end of it.
Everyone finds out about puppetry.
Like, yeah,
everybody. Let's try to do something simple this time. Why don't we just use puppets instead?
Yeah.
Like, oh boy, you just made it pretty complicated.
That does touch on something that I did want to ask, though, is that we were just talking to Sedwan Hooks recently, and he was mentioning how a big difference between a theme park puppet and a studio puppet is how much more damage it could take, and how much sturdier it is. I imagine that would potentially add weight to it. Can you talk about the differences of just the physical demands of puppeteering in a park versus with puppets that you've built yourself, or in a more simple studio setting?
I mean, you said it, like, they have to last a long time. They have to take a beating. They have to do 10 shows a day or however many, and with hopefully as little cost as possible to fix it. So here in-house, obviously, if something busts a seam, I can just go and do it. So yeah, no, they're definitely beefy and beautiful, and I think a lot of us much like myself, beefy. Sorry. No, it's become a point of pride for some people learning certain shows, tackling the challenge of the endurance, and because we've actually talked to some puppeteers that do mostly TV stuff, and how
And
they're
we
like,
and
what?
we humbled them.
No,
Yeah.
no, I know.
Well,
No,
I was
I
thinking
mean-
the opposite of like you bring in your theme park friends to do bird call and they just like beat the crap out of a
No,
puppet
yeah.
because
You're not wrong. You're not wrong with that.
there are a few, yeah.
But no, it's shocking to some people. They're like, how long is your arm up for this show? How long? Before you get a break? What? And we're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've got back issues.
Yeah, back issues. I have stamina, but I can't stand up straight.
I
So.
need a chiropractor.
Yeah. And
But
I imagine too
I
that
find it. I'm proud of it.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I imagine too that they not only have to be built stronger because they get used for longer, and I mean, again, you're doing 3, 4, 5 shows a day. I mean, things aren't built. I mean, nothing lasts forever, so you want to make it last as long as you can. And then again, too, if you're just having college kids use it often, you know, it's like driving a rental car. I don't drive it the way I drive my own car.
Yeah, it's like we with the process of bringing people in, there's sometimes they realize as to, hey, maybe this person will just do this role and they not have to touch the bigger roles. Like we did the menagerie thing here at Animal Kingdom this last Christmas, and it was with and Monkey Boys
Monkey
built them, and so
Mhm.
and you know, we're good friends with Monkey Boys, so they were working on it going, we're going to be down there soon. And I was like, great. And we got to see, I mean, they did such a great job with it. But we did have some people within the group who
Not
never touched a puppet.
puppeteers.
Yeah. And so trying to train them how to keep these things alive. And they were on stages themselves as well, dressed to the aesthetic
they
as a
did
puppet.
such a good job in kind of accepting the puppeteer role and doing the best that they could. And they're like, wow, this is cool. I've never done this before. But it takes a lot to kind of understand, how am I not going to be hard on the puppet, and how am I not going to be hard on my body? Like, how do I have to kind of adjust to this completely different way of thinking, different way of performing, so that I don't hurt myself and this puppet.
Yeah.
And we had to interact with guests. So that was good and bad.
yeah.
Because, you know,
Fun.
like we would do like the Burke Hall hospital visits, and I think Cameron, somebody told me a story that you took Big Bird to a hospital, right?
I do.
Or you took
Yeah.
your Big Bird. Yes. So you'll understand the whole aspect of walking into a room, you have the puppet, and immediately you'll have the kid like hand to the mouth, into the
Mhm.
mouth. And you're just like,
Was
I've,
it-
I've had
No,
med students chase. I once had a time where a med student chased me down the hall trying to figure out how the beak worked.
oh my God.
And
Yeah.
I had to like literally as medium bird, as I call him, go up to, I knew who the attending was. And I said, you need to talk to your med student because that's completely unacceptable.
They don't know
Um,
boundaries. Yeah, it's
no.
not a good. That's not a good quality for a doctor to have.
No, horrible
No.
bedside manner.
Yeah.
Birdside manner.
Yeah. How do you work?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No.
But your experience, the kids wanting to touch them and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's always they want to just. I'm like,
Don't bite me. Don't bite. I
Yeah.
wasn't going.
Yeah,
to.
they'll always be like, "Don't bite me," and then they'll stick their hand in them. I'm like, why did that become a thing? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't do that as a kid. I remember thinking that, like, did I do that as a child? No, I guess I had some sense to me. I don't know.
You know, it's so funny you
It's-
say
yeah,
that too,
it's
because
such a gut
when I
reaction.
first started doing puppetry, my good friend Zach, who really got me into puppetry, he's been doing puppetry his whole life. I remember telling him, I was like, I did a show one time, and I'm like, this kid put his finger in the puppet's mouth. It was so weird. He's like, that's what people do. I'm like, what? He's like, everybody does that. Kids, adults, everyone. And then I started performing more. I'm like, why do they do this? What? I'm like, if I saw a puppet, nothing in the world would just make me. And they don't even do it like. They're not even thinking. There's their eyes and their hand starts all by itself. They don't even know that it's involuntary, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what.
completely bizarre.
It's an unusual
bizarre.
problem that people never would expect puppeteers to have.
No, and it's great whenever you can commiserate with other puppeteers to be like, you too?
Right.
Oh, like, I'm not crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Universal thing.
Yeah, oh my
Absolutely.
gosh.
I had a question about you guys doing those hospital visits because I um I as we just mentioned do some myself, and do you guys have issues ever where the kids are um not familiar with the characters? Like, is that a hurdle that you have to get over? Because
Yeah, we've had that before. Like
or their
how it
parents
started
say
was
something like, "Oh, look, it's Elmo," and it's like, it's a blue bird. Like,
I
I don't know if
yeah
it's never been a problem. It's
no.
always been a whoa, what's this? How very interesting. Who are you?
Mhm.
Kind of thing.
And a lot of kids nowadays, like they'll have their tablet with them,
Yeah.
and you'll tell them where you're from, and they'll look it up right there and be like, "Oh, this is you."
Or like
It's
this was fun. Where can we find you?
Yeah.
I'll go
Mm.
if you want to see us more. Here's our
because
YouTube.
obviously when we do those, like the rule up front, like we have to sign the paper. I mean,
Yeah, we're not there to be like to hand out our
oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure, of
but at
course.
the same
Yeah.
time it's still kind of like we love you to if you liked us here, we'd love you to,
Yeah.
you know.
but we
Yeah.
have been we
Like
have been
us
lucky
elsewhere.
to have people know who we are when we walk in,
Mm.
and so we're like, "Oh, well, we're going to stay in this room for a little bit longer."
Uh-huh.
Like, so that's been kind of neat. It did start just me going. As a friend of mine, she had worked there and she did art with the kids, and she actually worked in the parks as an animator
Oh, cool.
way back when they did animate in the parks, MGM. And she said, would you be willing to do that? I said, yeah. So I went by myself and I really enjoyed it, but I wanted somebody to play off of, because to work in a vacuum like that with a kid one-on-one and you don't have anything to kind of jump back
There's
to.
no buffer.
No. So it was Luckle and Foul Owl, which is perfect because they are perfect to banter off of. And then they started asking, can you bring more of the characters?
Wow.
How many, so they brought 4 of us at one point and split us all up into different parts of the hospital.
I think the most has been 5.
Yeah, we had 5 of us at one point. So we've had some kids that were just fantastic. We've had some that had nothing to do with us. And then my favorite is the rooms that they have the teens in.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, would you still go in there? We're like, and so they immediately they're too cool for school.
But then they're not.
By the end, they're right on
win them
board.
over.
Yeah, we win them over. So that's kind of the joy of it. I've had some one story that always sticks with me was this girl she was deaf. She couldn't, speak, and she could only sign. So I came in and we're like, and Luckle's a rod arm puppet. So I'm like, I can't do anything like that. And the guy playing Foul Owl's like, I know no sign language, so you're on your own. So he just kind of stood there like, yeah. But she started, speaking with, through sign language, and her mom would tell me what she's saying. And so I was finding ways with the arm rods to make Luckle say things. And, she got teary-eyed, little girl did, because she understood what I was saying. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I start crying and the mom's crying. And it was this very sweet moment. And
You said beautiful.
yeah, so she's beautiful. And she was just like taken aback by that. She's about 5 or 6. And she just started crying. And she's like, no one's told her that before. And she's, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's really compelling, because she does see me here. Like,
Mhm.
it's no, joke that it's a puppet. But she
A lot of kids
suspended
are
the belief. Yeah.
willing to believe.
And
Right.
so, whenever we left, you think about, because what she was going through, and we saw everything going in there.
Yeah.
It just, the outcome's not a positive one in certain situations. And that was one where I just left like sobbing, because it's like, I can't believe it. But to know that you can do something that is memorable for them in just that moment, and we get to do that again with the parks with Disney, is getting to share those moments. Even, it's not us, it's the character that they're talking to or playing with. So we haven't got to do much of those for a while. And then of course with the quarantine and coronavirus, it was definitely a no-no of
course,
showing up with birds.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. And it is just to take someone out of it's theater at its highest form, of being able to take people out of their moment and make them present in what you're presenting to
Yeah.
them.
And not only
I think
just
that
I'm sorry,
that makes it work so well. When you're, even if you could be doing jumping jacks behind the puppet that you're performing, but when they lock eyes and stuff with that, it's like a beautiful version of tunnel vision where you're all that they see. It's really, really special.
And not only that, being able to make something that's personal for them, because like that, what you're saying with that child that was deaf is like maybe they get to see Sesame Street or things like that, and they just it's all subtitles, and especially at that age, the child probably can't even read anyway. So to have something that kind of can relate to them, I taught at a school for the deaf for a while too. So they a lot of times. Students who just use sign language they're used to absorbing media that wasn't designed for them, and being able to even have a moment like that with that kind of a connection can be really strong.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, it's great when we get to do anything like that in a meet and greet sort of way with the characters, and it's so rare when it's a puppet, that they can actually. We one of the nicest things they ever said was we were there. And they had Mickey and Minnie show up at the hospital the day before, and we'd come in the next day, and the nurses said, "This is better than when Mickey and Minnie was here." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, why?" And she's like, "Because you're talking to them, and it's like this whole thing." And I'm like,
"Oh yeah."
And I couldn't say like, "Well, we work at Disney, so we won't be telling the mouse you said."
Yeah.
That. It was a funny.
He's hearing it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that too, because I think puppets can be a lot less scary because those costume characters, because like it's probably scary to a kid because like it's moving. I don't know how it's moving, but it's definitely not alive. Okay, which is scary. Whereas with a puppet, you see someone attached to it is like, I don't know what he's doing, but that guy's got something to do with it. So there's a lot less of a surprise or secret to it.
Like kid logic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The kid logic.
Well, and when you're able to have that conversation with them, like definitely what Adam was saying about that relation, but just like even having a kid hear someone then other than a doctor or a parent say their name can be so comforting. And you talk to them about their favorite toy or what they're watching on TV or like any of those things. It's really,
I think one of the best things we got to do was we had Mr. Chicker, the chicken character, come with us, and every room we went in, what are kids eating? Chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets.
And so he played into it. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Like we're like, this is a little morbid, but it's fine. Yeah. It was very funny. And so they would purposely like, the kids would be like, they knew we were coming back in and would leave it out to be like, look, oh my gosh, it's so awkward. You walked in. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Another
thing I just wanted to touch on quick, because we mentioned it, and I want to stop the conversation about Cameron's mentioning about how not being recognizable characters that you use for that type of thing, and I feel like a lot of people can probably relate to this. It's happened to me too, where I bring like a blue monkey out and people say, "Oh, look, it's Elmo," right? Which I couldn't quite be further from it. But I think, and a lot of people get caught up on that, and they get kind of disappointed, even if they don't vocalize it in that moment. They're like, "No, it's not a Muppet," and no, it's not it's not a Sesame Street character. This is my own character. But I think one thing people don't always think about is that can be a lot of kids' way of saying, for example, a kid knows what Elmo is before they know what a puppet is. So in a way, that's their way of saying, oh, it's a nice puppet. It's like an Elmo, In the same way, a lot of babies will like call any female they see mama, because mama just kind of means woman or something like that.
Exactly.
So I think having that type of perspective can help people get over some frustration and actually take it as a compliment,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've never, anytime that they've said that to the character,
or they're like, you must know Kermit.
We're like, sometimes we'll go back and forth. We'll be, Locals like, I don't know who this Kermit is, but they sound weird, and that's good for them, Or you're like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, I called them the other day, and then you move on with it,
Or you scare them and say, yes, I know him, and if you're not good, I'm gonna tell him.
That's when you're visiting at the adult hospitals, Adam.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Or it depends on what kind of person you are, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had many times at the hospitals, we would go by the wing where the older patients are, and they'd see us and be like, "Are they coming to us? Are they coming to us today?" Like, and I always feel so bad because they're like, "No, you can't have them. You can't have these puppets in there." Okay, all right.
One more thing I wanted to ask was just because I think people might kind of use this video as like a tool for, advice on becoming a Disney puppeteer. Is there any specific advice you might give to people who might want to do this?
Kind of like what we were talking before about how you're not always just a puppeteer. You're going to be doing other things. Expect to do other things.
Yeah.
If you go specifically as a puppeteer, you might be disappointed because it might take a little while to actually learn a specific show, depending on what roles need to be filled at the time.
And to tag on to that too, a lot of people think coming in when they do learn a show, they think it's not like a Broadway situation or like community theater where you learn it and you're going to do it. You already have, unfortunately have an established cast that's there. So, 5-6 days a week.
So it might take some time, but I mean, if you'll get there, if you put the time in and you show that you're really committed to doing a certain thing, it might take a little while, but you'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any, and this may not be applicable, but are there any like either resources or good like documentaries to kind of get a sense of what the theme park system kind of like, what that ecosystem is like, or is that really something that you have to understand just by being a part of it?
I was gonna say I don't know if you've watched it. Have you seen the Disney Plus Imagineering series?
Oh,
I've not watched it yet. No.
It's like a 6-part series, hour long each episode. There are things about it that you kind of get the overall setting of what Disney is, of what especially the parks, because it's all about the parks. That was the cool thing about watching that, to go, I'm part of this. That's kind of neat. I definitely would suggest, because you learn the history of everything, but you do see how what they've set up for success and how it propels the entertainment industry within Disney to continue to grow internally with their cast members. And they do show a lot of really neat, I don't want to say what, because it's a nice surprise to see certain things. They do showcase a lot of behind the scenes of how it works, and
which is unusual because a lot of times it's like this mysterious, magical, wonderful place that you do not talk about.
Yeah. You hear a lot of theories about it too, about I always hear about the tunnels underground and that the garbage cans are all hosed together and stuff, and you don't know if it's true, you don't know if it's not true. Some people say it is, but they're lying to trick people, and you never know what's real.
Oh yeah,
it's something you have to experience for yourself, because
that's what they always say. That's what they always say.
They do have tours you can pay for, because we run into them all the time while we're working at Magic Kingdom. You're walking down with your group, on your break, kind of and then all of a sudden you see a group of guests and you straighten up and you're like, where
put your head back on.
No. Sorry. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of see them in those backstage areas, because you're kind of like, oh, you're here. Wow, how much money did you pay? But congratulations. Well, welcome to this. It's uninteresting to us after a certain point, because this is where we work. But to a guest who's especially a Disney fanatic, it's like, this is where the cogs are turning.
Yeah. The vault's 2 doors down to the right, and yeah,
right. Yeah. Walt's head is
right.
They do have kind of interesting things down there, old tiki room bird puppets set up. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And it's something that you both kind of said that got me thinking that it's probably really important to remember too, that it is an entertainment industry first. Yes, you're working and you're doing all these things, and you might be Nemo one day and Mickey the next, and all these characters that you know and love, but it's really important to remember that it's a professional job as a professional actor or puppeteer. And, there might be a lot of people who are really big Disney fans who maybe think that they want to be a part of the parks and in the parades and all those sorts of things. But like, no, you have to have that like high level of dedication that you would have on a Broadway or an equity stage.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
I personally, and a lot of the group we run with, we take our jobs very seriously because we do love what we do. Some people can get burnt out, and if you don't want to get burnt out, like if you want to keep the pixie dust alive, then maybe just keep coming as a annual pass holder or something. But yeah, if you don't love what you do, then it can wear on you, I guess.
Yeah.
Doing it, any job becomes a job.
Of course.
Well, not only that too, but I think like specifically, like again, like if when you get a job at McDonald's, you probably kind of know what you're getting yourself into, right?
Right.
But then when just the thought of being a young person, I get to work at Disney. I loved going to the parks, I love doing it. It's got to be fun 24 hours, and I'm sure it is fun, but it is a job. And the job is work, and I could see some people being over the moon excited to do it, and then pretty quickly finding out, what, this is not what I expected, and I don't like it, and I don't want to be a part of it. And it has nothing to do with Disney or how they operate. It has to do with their expectations.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely,
it's always up to the individual. And I think for myself, I like to keep it fresh because I know that these people have taken a lot of time and effort and money to get to where they are. And even though it may be my, 7th show of the day, it's the one that they're going to get to see. So it's fresh for them. And, a lot of people would kill to do what we do. So that keeps it special and interesting for me. If you ever have a day that's kind of like, oh, this again. You're like, no. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's great to have those different kind of motivators in the back of your mind. Like, I love that idea of reminding yourself, like, this is the one time they're going to see it. This is, they put a second mortgage out on their house so they could come here, and, they stood in line for 2 hours, and then that versus, when you're at a hospital or a school or whatever, there's a whole different playbook in the back of your head, and just being able to be present and really focusing on who your audience is really important. And I think it's great that you guys have these opportunities to kind of switch it up so it doesn't become stale and you're constantly influenced and really in it. I think is wonderful.
Yeah, no, that's so important to point out too, because even myself growing up, like I had those friends that went to Disney every single summer. And like we went like once. I was one of 9 kids. It's a lot to bring to Florida from Buffalo. It was a once in a lifetime kind of thing. As a child, at least, I've gone more as myself as an adult. But and keeping that perspective that this is people's very, very special moment for some of them. And then there's some locals that are there like 3 times a week too. So they're the ones looking for the flaw. Like, hey, Nemo he didn't hold it as high this time. Did you see that?
Let's not at Disney Dan this way to Adam.
Yes, okay. No, that's great. No. Wow.
Love you, Dan.
Wow. No, cool. Something else I wanted to talk about too is, of course, especially with Kelsey and your TikTok fame.
Yes.
And that, because that's really interesting. Can you just tell us about it?
Absolutely. So I made the purple guy. Stan is his name. I made him for the Beyond the Sock workshop that I got to work at last year. And my friend Jennifer was like, oh, you're going to be on staff, so you should go with your own puppet. So I built him for that. And after it was over, I was like, well, now I have this thing. What do I do with it? Like, he's real cute. Let's figure something out. And TikTok was still kind of that thing that people didn't fully understand yet. And, oh, it's just for kids. Oh, it's just dances. And
it's very, very misunderstood by a lot of people and continues to be.
Yeah. It's at least more kind of mainstream now, but it's still almost like laughable. Like people are like, what? You do what?
The people that laugh about it are people who have like 10 followers. That's why they laugh at it. People
Like,
laugh at
have you
things they
seen
don't
my
get.
number?
Because I'll be honest, I laugh at Snapchat because I don't get it. I'm like, Snapchat's dumb. No one likes Snapchat. It's because I don't get it. That's why. That people don't like things they don't get. So the problem is not the thing; it is them. So, yeah.
But yeah, I downloaded it. I was convinced by a couple people to like go and do the thing, because Toily was already on TikTok.
Well, yeah, Grant had like promoted it a lot on his like his own Facebook, and I was like, "What is this? I've never."
Yeah.
So Grant really took over TikTok too.
Yeah,
he really did.
He really did.
And 1.5 million subscribers and following or something like that. Yeah,
amazing.
It's wild.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I so after being coerced and convinced, I realized it was kind of cute and funny. I the first couple, you can kind of tell that I was still kind of just having a silly fun time. And essentially it was just, okay, I'm going to do this if you also download it and then watch them and laugh, because I'm doing this for you, but like for my friends. And then as I kind of started to understand what it was about and what the trends were about, and finding how the algorithm kind of worked, I was like, okay, so I'd see a trend that I thought would be cute if a puppet did it. And I remember the first time I got up to like 1 million views, I was like, Calvin, people are watching my stuff, because I thought it was just to make me laugh. And then TikTok is just a way to reach people in a way that hasn't really been done before that I'm aware of. Just the way that they have the algorithm work and the way people can, somebody described it as potato chips.
Yes,
like,
it is. It is video potato chips, 100%. And just to frame this for people too, so you go as one Brady lady on TikTok, and you're just about to hit 700,000.
I'm close.
Close to 700,000 followers on it. And unless I'm wrong, I was looking through it, and I think the one that really had you pop was that one about with the puppet stand, was like putting you to bed or something.
The sleepy time.
Which has
That
about
was
20
great.
million views on it, and it's really hysterical. Yeah, TikTok is an odd thing, and why I think TikTok absolutely exploded is because it's if you're going to be if this is your first time making any sort of content, TikTok is the easiest thing to start on, because like YouTube, anyone can post something to YouTube, right? But guess what? You have to film it. You have to come up with the idea. You have to come up with everything. Same thing with Instagram. You have to have your own idea, put it out there. The thing that's great about TikTok is built into it. Like, hey, you saw a funny video, you can immediately use that sound. So unlike any other platform, it's built into the platform to give you ideas. Whereas any other platform, you have to have your own ideas and then ship it. This one kind of gives you ideas. The way I used it, and still use it, is as a creative playground. Because I find, doing a couple TikToks will put you in a very inspirational mood to start being creative.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it was around the time that the Liberty Square show, the Muppet show at in Magic Kingdom, was going away, and I was sad. So I started making more TikToks, and that's when it actually really started taking off. So yeah, it was this like creative platform that I took and kind of ran with it, because I don't know.
It's fun.
I found there was a void in my life.
Yeah.
Fill it.
But again, it's fun. It's fun. Like sitting on making Instagram videos or stuff isn't fun in the same way, because you're in TikTok, you're part of something. And like you said, the way that there's trends on stuff, it's very different than the way there's trends on other things. Like you can be, everyone can and should be part of the trend in TikTok, because that's what it's for. It's again, it's really
I can scroll through the same audio for a good 5 or 6 minutes, like this different people using the same audio and seeing how everybody has interpreted it differently.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's so creative. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't get banned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. Some people are worried about it, but
I was gonna say, who knows? By the time this comes out, we might.
That's what I was gonna say. By the time
it
this
could be
airs, it's-
extinct already. Yeah, hopefully not. But yeah, I would say anyone who I think everyone should at least. It's important as content creators, whether you do have a YouTube channel or even if you want to be, make a TV show. It's important to know about things that are happening in pop culture. And TikTok is a huge, huge part of that. And especially if you run a business and you want to, it's brand recognition. And, so many people want to create content and force it down someone's throat the way they make it. It's like, watch my YouTube video, check out my Instagram. Oh, but I don't do TikTok. What you need to do is let your audience absorb your content the way they want to absorb it. And and anyone who's having a show or trying to release some sort of product, you want to make it accessible to your whole audience. That's how it's going to work. Everyone's trying to funnel everyone to one thing, and it doesn't really work that way, especially since all these medias are so generational too. I mean, the people who are on Facebook are different than are on Twitter, who are different that's on Instagram, which is very different that's on TikTok. So yeah, it's a strange world we live in.
I know, and it makes me feel so young. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like you said, keeping up with the trends and the times, and if we put stuff out there, you have to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what are people actually going to watch? Because if I'm going to put this out there, it can be as good as I can make it, but if people don't watch it, they don't watch it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's what people overthink everything too much, which again I think is that's why I think TikTok is good training, because it kind of forces you not to think as much, which is why I was saying it kind of helped put me in a creative mood. And because here's the thing: everyone wants everyone to love everything that they do. And that's just not in reality. And I just want anyone who wants to have more of a presence online is just make more stuff, And
TikTok is a way to make all this stuff.
Absolutely. Another thing people think about too is they get so caught up in the numbers and how many likes something gets. They say, hey, this Instagram post only got 50 likes. This one got 150 likes. I should do more of that stuff. But then again, if you're only dealing with the same 150 people, maybe it's not 100 people less liked it. Maybe 50 different people liked it, right? So it's not about the numbers in that way. So you want to reach as many people in your audience as you can and do things. Again, everyone doesn't love the same thing. That's why when you go to the ice cream store, there's 50 different options,
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, that's my rant. Sorry.
No,
I was gonna say.
I love it.
Thank you, everybody, for attending Adam's TED Talk.
Yes.
TikTok, TED Talk.
Oh gosh.
No, it's so easy to get so obsessed with the numbers, and I think that's why I've taken a couple steps back from time to time, because I've noticed it's so easy to kind of get burnt out and you're like, I can't get blood from a stone here. I gotta take a second. Or maybe I don't feel so funny because the world is kind of crazy right now. But then it comes out in spurts. I'm like, oh, I have this burst of creativity. What do I do with it? And then you open up your phone and make some short, quick little potato chip.
Yeah.
And put it out to the world.
Exactly.
To consume.
Absolutely. So guys, that's a great place to kind of, call the end of part one. And but before you go, do you have a good puppeteer story for us? A time where something didn't go right, either in a park or at bird call or somewhere else, where you were kind of wanting to pull your hair out in the moment, but looking back now, we could laugh about it. Something that gave you puppet tears.
And something that won't get you fired.
Yeah.
My Rolodex is spinning. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope. Let's stick with the bird call story. I think maybe the time so we've done Bird Call the musical four times now.
Wow.
And every time has been kind of varying levels of production quality depending on how fast we were asked to put it together, who was available, what kind of budget we had.
Yeah, what the theater had paid for.
Like the one we posted was very bare bones, versus there was one that had like full sets and dancers and a band and stuff. So anyway, I say all of that. There was one that we did where we were misinformed about what we were able to do tech-wise with the theater space that we had. And during was it a dress rehearsal, we go to, close the curtain at a theater for after Act 1, and it goes, and then they were like, curtain doesn't work.
It's not weighted correctly. Yeah.
Or like, so we paid for this theater space to have a not a curtain. So we had to think on our feet and deal with that, along with some other fun little audio issues. We've had to
everybody close your eyes.
I know, right?
1, 2, 3. Okay, good.
Your eyes are your curtains.
Yes.
They're the curtains to your face.
The curtains are your face. Oh my God.
I mean, that whole experience was a great learning experience where we had to think a lot on our feet because of what we were given. But can we laugh at it now?
Sure.
We just did.
Yeah.
So
That was definitely a tear or two.
That was your puppeteer.
Yeah. I don't know. That was the first thing that came to mind that wasn't Disney related.
Calvin, if you had one that stuck out for you.
I've had a few mishaps before with characters. Puppets have kind of at a shoot, it's very different. Where something falls off the puppet and you're like, okay. Like we did one.
Put it in the bloopers.
Yeah, where like one of our characters, Speck, has this little pompadour looking thing in the back, and it popped off, and he just like the puppet just looked shocked. It was funny. But for me, I had a puppet for a live show where it was a mechanical puppet, but the body didn't stay on, and the head just stayed at the top of the mechanical piece. And so I just kind of sat there like, how do I hide this? And we didn't know what to do, and the body just slowly slid down the mechanism of the puppet, and it was just this head.
It went E.T.
It was so creepy, but we did a good job of just kind of hiding them, like off stage where they were like peeking, and every line was just the head coming back on, because I was hidden. But it was that moment where you went, I'm very creative. I'm very proud of myself. I had to think on my feet, and I can now just perform a head.
Surely no one noticed.
No one noticed, I'm sure. But yeah, that was definitely one of those mishaps, one of many, where live shows you just kind of look up and go,
my arm's gone.
The pupil's missing. Yeah, so they look like a zombie. Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
That's great.
Yeah. So what's the best way for people to follow Bird Call and follow you guys and see what you guys are always up to?
Can I say your TikTok?
One Brady Lady, so ONE, not the number, on Instagram and TikTok. One Brady Lady.
And then Bird Call is at youtube.com/birdcallradio. And then Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all Bird Call Radio.
Oh, that's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Does Bird Call have its own TikTok too?
It does, yeah. Usually, though, they show up on this one's unannounced.
Before you had a TikTok, I was utilizing the puppets that live in my home
while I was at work.
So
I would find the characters doing things.
Anyway,
I guess she has the right.
So then he decided
out of anybody at this point.
That's what you should do. Each character should have their own TikTok, and then you can do like a Marvel Cinematic Universe. They can all duet each other and stuff rather than have one. Like, yeah, create your own little world there. That'd be hysterical.
Right. Awesome. There's so many times I'll be in the other room working on something, and she'll yell, "Can you come in here and do this?" Because she needs to be in it. Yeah. So okay, what do you want? And then do it and then leave, and then she'll post it, and it's like, it has 1 million views now. And I'm like,
okay.
Okay.
Doesn't
That's
it,
cool.
Isn't that funny though? I'm sure you can both relate to this too. Is like, as a lot of people could probably relate to this. You know, there's something you put all this time and work into, and like it does okay, and then something you just do on a whim is like resonated
That's
with
the
people.
one.
That
That's
really,
the
that one,
Yeah.
right? Oh my gosh.
That's why I post maybe when I post, I will post a few at a time, and some will be my favorite, and they won't be the ones that perform as well. But
Yeah.
that's okay.
You know
I
what?
Still love 'em.
Yeah, I think that's the message to my TED Talk is that you can't, you can't. I think the problem people have is they try to control what people are gonna like rather than just like letting people like it. You know, it just let them find their own humor and whatever. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Well,
anyway,
this has been great. Calvin Lester and Kelsey Brady, thank you so much for joining us on Puppeteers. It's been so much fun to get to know you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks for having us.
sure. Bye. It is Laster. It's pronounced.
What's that?
Lester.
Lester. Okay.
Like Lester Holt.
Let me. Lester.
Yeah.
Holtz, yeah.
Lester.
Lester. I wrote
Barely
Lester.
know her.
Lester.
And I
Calvin
have it through
Lester?
GarageBand recording.
Great.
Perfect. That'll help. All right. Calvin.
This is the part that Adam screws
Lester.
up the most.
Lester. Okay. Kelsey Brady. Okay. Lester, right?
Yes.
Lester. Okay. Just making sure. I keep getting in my head. Okay.